Hello and welcome.
Hi.
To Vampires and Mermaids.
Woo.
I'm Erin.
I'm Risha.
And we're excited for this week.
We are. We have wine today.
We do. Well, is there anything we wanted to talk about before we get started? I'd plug our social media, but I haven't actually made it yet.
Yeah.
Even though this will be our third podcast.
Right.
So maybe that's why I should just go ahead and make it. Because we can actually plug that.
Yeah.
We're not doing Twitter though, right?
No, please.
Okay, is Twitter still?
So for some people,
Okay.
I feel like it had a comeback.
I feel like it died when, was it Elon bought it?
Yeah.
And that turned into X. I was trying to find Twitter on my app because I only use it for like stalking people or checking Taylor Swift's news.
There you go.
And I couldn't find it on my phone. I'm like, where the fuck is my Twitter app? And it's like, oh, isn't it like X or some shit?
Twitter back in like 2014, and I never posted a single thing.
For a while, I thought I'd be Twitter famous. I was not.
I could see it though.
Right? My college roommate, Bridget, who's from New York, she actually had a Twitter account that was kind of like low-key famous, but it was for a boy band in like the 2000s. And I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was 5 Seconds of Summer, but it was kind of that same vibe. And if she ever listens to this, she's going to be just screaming the name right now. But it actually had kind of a crazy cult following. And she was like 13 when she made it. And I think that's just hilarious.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, so that's what the Twitter app looks like now.
Oh, goodness. That looks really dumb.
Right? It looks like a 12-year-old emo boy made it.
Yeah.
Which is, do we like Elon Musk?
I don't really.
Okay, I don't actually follow.
But it's not politics. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's not a vampire as far as we're aware.
Well,
He's not a mermaid as far as we're aware.
Yeah.
I would love for people to write in, though, like conspiracy theories about politicians and celebrities.
That'd be super fun.
Right?
Conspiracy. This famous person is definitely a vampire. Like, I want to know.
I want to say there was an actor and an actress who were married. Was it? I don't think it was Angelina Jolie. There was a famous actress who was married for a while, and her significant others kept vials of the partner's blood.
Yeah. Oh, who was that?
Right. Again, someone's screaming at us. I'll Google it quick. Because it drives me nuts when people don't.
When you don't get the answer.
Yes. Or when I'm listening to a podcast and the host is like, oh, someone's screaming the right answer. And I'm like, but you never found out.
You got to tell
me. Oh, it was
me.
Angelina Jolie.
Oh, look at that memory.
It was Angelina Jolie and Billy Bob Thornton.
Huh. Wait, she was with a Billy Bob once?
Yeah, and he looks like a Billy Bob.
Oh my gosh, he totally does.
How did he beg Angelina Jolie?
That's not Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, that's Angelina Jolie. That's just like early 2000s.
Wow.
Yeah, because she has Billy Bob tattooed on her arm. He kind of gives vampire vibes, actually.
A little bit. It's the goatee.
I'm going to make you do all these stupid pop culture references. Don't worry, folks. I've already told her she has to cover Count Chocula.
You did. Yep.
Very excited. But
Good.
would you like to begin with who you do have or what you have today?
I would love to begin because I'm so excited because this is one that we're going to be talking about Tanz Der Vampire. And so it's not a random ogre. It's not a witch that turns into a cat. Today we're going to talk about an operetta.
And why are we talking about this specific operetta?
So this specific operetta, it's vampires, of course, and Tanz Der Vampire is German for dance like of the vampire, pretty much. And this is a operetta that I found one day when I was listening to Disney songs in German on my YouTube page.
You do speak some German for some clarification.
Deutsch ist am besten. Means Deutsch is the best. It's like my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was in high school, my senior year, and I was just wanting to get things to listen to in German to improve my German. And I love musicals. And this one popped up. And I freaking love it. And I watch it every single year in October.
Amazing.
Which it's October now as we're recording. And I do that because otherwise I'd watch it more and like probably
limit yourself.
It's limited to once a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And what I like to do as well is I like to find somebody that I like to watch it with me in October.
And what are we doing after the recording of this podcast?
We're going to watch it.
And I've never seen it I have very limited knowledge of this, so I'm also going to be listening along.
Yes.
I also do not speak German, so.
Not a lick of it other than ja?
Other than ja. I did actually meet a very sweet German lady, if you want a quick tangent. Yeah. I had a wedding this last weekend, who was a very good family friend, and her family, the bride's family, had hosted foreign exchange students, and they all became very close because the bride is from just one of the sweetest families you could ever meet. And the foreign exchange students and her mother actually flew in for the wedding. It was insanely sweet. And so Greta is the mom. Yep, I got to meet Greta. And she was so incredibly kind. And she was staying in Minneapolis for a while, which is the large town, the large city near us, and talking about how different it is from Germany.
Ooh.
And she's from the countryside in Germany. So she's like, do you all live in cities? And it's like, no. My husband and I don't. We have horses. We're out in the country. She's like, oh, good. So it's not just all the Minnesotans are like this, because she had never been to the States before, I don't think. She said it had been 30 years since she'd been on a plane, and she got on a plane to fly out for this wedding. So
that's awesome.
Yes. And at one point I was getting a beer at the bar, and a couple came up behind me. It was not Greta, but it was a younger couple, and they just started very quickly talking in German. Oh. And I hadn't even had a beer yet, and I was like, am I drunk? And they're like, they're speaking German. And then I could not focus on what the bartender was asking me, because I was just like, wow, this is so fascinating. And like the language is so beautiful, and it was a lot of fun. So
I felt like that you said that.
I felt like it was a really good intro for this movie night that we had coming up.
Well, because I feel like German gets a bad rep.
Yes.
With the whole, it's an aggressive language. And it's like, anything sounds aggressive if you say it aggressively.
Well, right. And I didn't necessarily, I kind of thought it was, but again, I figured it was kind of, that depends on the intonation, obviously. But this was my first time, we're in the States, the United States, and it was my first time hearing German just in the wild. And it was beautiful. I have zero clue what they were saying, but it's like, oh, it's so sad that it's always portrayed, they're always the bad guys in the movies.
Bad guys, or just harsh.
Yes.
Harsh. And there's a lot of consonants, which can make it easier to become harsh.
But listening to these two talk, I could have been doing the moon eyes on the bar. I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. So it felt like a good warm up for, sorry, what's it called again?
Tanz Der Vampire.
Tanz Der Vampire. Okay.
Close.
Yeah, I know that's very wrong.
I love it.
Well, tell me more.
Okay, so it's an operetta. And we had this little discussion before too about kind of what makes it an operetta versus an opera. And what I've always been told is that it's got some dialogue in there. It's not just straight singing. They're usually mic'd, or there's a different kind of feel to the music, that it's a little lighter or less severe.
Sure.
And it's shorter. It's not as long as a normal opera.
Because how long are operas typically?
Well, it depends on the opera. I know the Ring cycle is really long.
I mean, are we talking like 3 hours?
More.
5 hours?
I think at least that.
Oh, okay. So operas, saying there's a 6-hour opera isn't like, don't be crazy.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. So this one's quite a bit shorter. It's 2 hours, so we're good.
It feels more manageable.
A little bit. Yeah, that's kind of pretty much what makes it an opera. Shorter.
Some talking. Chiller.
Yeah, some talking. Yeah. And it's this one's also like a rock operetta too. So it's
cool.
Not it's got a little bit of that, like it's got vibrato, but it's not difficult
the singing
to
style's
understand.
More modern.
Yes, definitely. And we'll get to a song that I'm going to talk about that's in there too. So I'm going to give you a little bit of kind of the plot, because it can be a little bit difficult to understand the first time through, I feel like. And we should drop the link too in the
Yes, I will put that in the description of the video and in our social media posts as well. And so I have not seen this before, and you're going to kind of deliver this to me and the listeners in a way that's not going to necessarily give spoilers, but help us better understand it, right?
Right.
Perfect.
As best as possible.
So if you want to see it and you're listening, you totally can wait until you're done listening to this episode. You don't have to pause it and leave.
Right.
You can finish the episode and then go listen to us. Pour yourself a glass of wine or sparkling water or whatever your preference is. Grab some snacks and pretend you're joining our movie night.
That's what we're going to do after.
Yes.
So come join us after. So pretty much how it starts out is there's this professor Ambrosius or Ambrosius, I don't know. They don't really say his name in the show, but he's just Professor. And he's got his little bumbling assistant, who's this freaking adorable kid. Well, he's not a kid, he's an adult man, but he's boyish. His name is Alfred, and he's the one who kind of screws up a lot in the whole thing. But it's like all good intentioned.
He kind of has the sweet bumbling idiot vibe.
Yeah, but not terribly the idiot, just like the naive, sweet young boy, you know? Yep. And the professor scolds him a lot. But their whole mission is they're trying to prove that vampires exist. And they end up in this, like, stuck in this wintry blizzard cold. And then they find this inn, and it's run by a guy named Chagall. It's his name. He's the innkeeper. And he's Jewish. That's important to the story. And so he and his wife live there. He's got a daughter who's like just this gorgeous Sarah. Her name is Sarah. And she likes baths and gets in trouble for taking the bath away from the guests because there's only one bath and she ends up in there. Alfred walks in on her. Yeah. Gasp. And immediate starry eyes. But the Chagall, the innkeeper, is also having an affair with one of the like maids of the house in there.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's the naughty thing. But they're living there, and then this like hunchback comes from the count's castle.
Classic.
And bids Sarah to come to the castle. And she's like, I want to be free.
Oh, no.
Out there is freedom.
Is she still in the bath during this? That would just be a hilarious, like, tongue-in-cheek version.
Oh, there was a debate. I watched this with a friend in college, and it was whether or not she was naked or wearing a bodysuit on stage.
Oh.
So you'll have to, I don't want to tell you to watch for that. That seems a little pervy, but like...
I'm intrigued.
That's a thing in there. So there's like back nudity, possibly.
Probably like some tape going on.
It could be a cover. It could be a bodysuit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm gonna watch for
it.
Right.
But the Count shows up before that, and you see him. You do get to see him before, and he's my favorite character. But that's also because I have a thing for like the moody bad boys. But.
That tracks.
Right. But I love how they show the vampires. So he's a vampire, Graf von Krolock in German, but he's Count Krolock. And they show the vampire with the super long, thin fingers and the sharp nails. And he's got the pointed teeth. He's got the cape that he brandishes around, and
God, I want to be able to wear a cape casually.
Right. And they did it where it can be stiff, so you can like actually like hold it out kind of like a bat, like their wings. It looks like that.
Oh, cool.
They do some really cool staging too, like disappearing and appearing in places, and the stage is gorgeous. I'm also super into theater, if you haven't figured that out, listener, or you will just learn to know that as we go on.
Yes, Risha is definitely the background in theater nerd in the best way.
Aw, thanks.
Yes, that's definitely an area of your expertise.
Yes, it's part of my degree, and I love it. But like the singing's great, the set's lovely. They do some choreography that's really fun in the show too. The vampires even get this whole like scene where they're kind of like crawling around like all like creepily. It's really fun. Very, very much an October show. I love it. It's got little like spooky, creepy vibes, but not like horrific. It's not like a scary movie. It's just like, ooh, it's spooky. Yeah.
Ooh, perfect.
Yeah, it's really fun. But she goes to the castle, Sarah, and then Alfred and the professor learn that she's left. And that the hunchback came to get her, and she's gone to the castle. And Chagall is like, no. The dad is like, oh no, this has happened, and goes and runs off to find her, like into the snow. And his wife is like, you're gonna get killed by wolves. And
so this is kind of some Beauty and the Beast vibes.
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, totally. Because she's like off into the castle and he's got to go get her from the beast.
And
yeah.
I think there is a scene with wolves in the original, the Disney Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. But he ends up getting brought back like all frozen and dead.
Oh, actually, he died.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Which it's not terribly spoiling anything.
Right.
It's just kind of, he's not a very likable character. I will say that.
Well.
But he ends up having like poke marks on the side of his neck. So there's something comes up about how to repel vampires, and like Alfred and the professor, let's say they have to stake him. The wife is like, no, you're not staking my husband's body. Don't defile his body, like, and all that kind of stuff. And so there's like the staking needs to happen, and they have garlic all around. There's a song called Knoblauch, and that's garlic in German. So there's a whole song about garlic.
Amazing.
It's good for pumping blood to certain places is kind of one of the parts of the song.
Like,
yep. I saw your eyebrows raised like, oh,
boy places?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Hey, girls get the blood pumping too.
This is true.
Yes.
Just not quite as,
You're right. Yeah, so that's a part of that song. But in Repelling Vampires, there's the whole spot about vampires and how like people use the cross to repel a vampire and how that's like harmful to them. Or like just even showing them a cross or like having that up will repel a vampire or harm them like physically. And so somebody went down and sees him rise and then holds out a cross to him. And he starts laughing.
oh, that's not what you want to have happen.
And he said, oh, I don't know if I should say it because it's funny. Can I spoil that part? Or do you want to?
Let's wait. Let's wait.
Okay.
Because if it were just me, I'd say yes. But there might be people listening.
You might be like, oh, I want to know. But there's a funny thing he says.
Ooh.
Okay. And it relates to how vampires are repelled. And I think it's hilarious. So be on the lookout for that. And like, you know, they end up going to the castle. They meet the count and they go through and look at the whole place. They're welcomed into the castle, and it's really fun songs happen in there. Some of them are really clippy and like quick. Some of them are really dramatic. I do want to talk about one song that almost everybody, I would hope you would recognize. I guess you might not if you're not into any kind of 80s. And it's been in so many movies. It's Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Total eclipse of the heart.
Yep.
Oh.
And instead of saying like turn around, they do seid bereit, which means be prepared.
Oh.
And so they sing that like they actually, it's almost like a pretty good translation. It was by the guy who did the song.
Oh, that's very cool.
I got it. Let me actually get my notes out here. So it's Steinman was the guy who did the song. And I had thought that he wrote the song for the show, but I mixed it up because of how he worded why he like put it in the show. So that song is from, I think, 1982 is when he wrote it. And then Bonnie Tyler? Yes. She sang it. But he was asked why he included it in 1997. So a little bit more than 10 years, about 15 years after he wrote it and it was done by Bonnie Tyler, it ended up in this German operetta.
Kind of random, seemingly.
Right. But it was, he said he was trying to come up with a love song for this vampire show. And he said, I remembered I actually wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart to be a vampire love song.
What?
Yeah. Like the original title was Vampires in Love.
Of Total Eclipse of the Heart?
Yeah. Yeah, and it was when he was working on the musical Nosferatu. And that's another vampire story. I should cover that. But if you listen to the lyrics, they're like a vampire like singing. Yeah, it's about darkness, power of darkness, and love's place in the dark.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That is I'm going to have to listen to that on the drive home.
Yes. Oh gosh, you need to.
That is a revelation.
Yes, and we'll hear it when we listen to the operetta.
Oh my goodness.
It's so fun because the turnaround, they keep saying like be prepared, and then at one point they're like the turnaround bright eyes.
Yeah.
They say Seid bereit, Sternkind, and that's Star Child. They say be prepared, Star Child. So they're singing it, and the Sarah is singing a lot of the other parts of it. Yeah.
Okay, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. It's really fun.
Very cool.
It's really fun. But she has this whole thing. She's obsessed with baths. Look for baths. It's also LGBTQ plus friendly.
Love that.
Really fun. I showed it to my brother Nick, and he hated it because it does have a lot of postmodern feels to it.
Sure.
You know, that was the time that it was made, and it's very much like, it's got a little bit of a, you can't do anything about it. It's just how it is, you know?
Yep.
This is the world, and this is how it is.
I can see that not being his jam, though.
Yeah. My other brother said it was just really a weird ride, but
I can see that too.
I love it. I think it's super fun. And it's vampires in a musical. Like,
what more could you want, especially for this?
But again, it's so good. There's so many songs in there that I still just like pop on and listen to. It's a pretty standard vampires, I feel like, too. My favorite song is, of course, by my favorite character, Graf von Krolach.
Oh.
He sings a song about like the difficulties, I guess, of his life or undead existence.
Oh. Am I gonna feel bad for him?
I don't know. You probably won't.
Okay. That's fair.
You might be like, that sucks, but yikes, you're kind of not okay.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah. Links in the description.
Ooh, so go watch it.
Yeah.
Grab your favorite beverage and snack.
Mm-hmm. Next episode, you'll have to do an update on how you felt.
Ooh, yes, definitely. We'll start the next episode with a what did Erin think?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I think I'm gonna like it though.
Okay. I hope.
I think I'm going to like it.
If you don't, you'll at least have something to like have fun with it about.
Yes.
Like, I'm almost positive. I still quote it with some of the people that have seen it once in their life and never are going to look at it again.
It makes me think of the creamy. What is
Bailey's?
Bailey's. Oh, Greg. There we go.
I'm old Greg.
What you doing in these waters? It makes me think of that. Like, even the people who absolutely hate that video that I've showed it to once will still just randomly be like, creamy.
Yes.
So yes, we will definitely link it. So not old Greg.
No, the operetta.
I can, but we will link the operetta. Go watch that first.
So good. Yeah, but what mermaid?
Okay,
or merfolk-ish.
Yeah, so my merfolk this year is it's Japanese folklore, very traditional Japanese folklore. And I had actually heard of this creature in a series I read back in probably like middle school it was the Tiger's Curse series by Colleen. I think it's Hook. It might be Hauk. It's Houck. I have it. It's like a 4 or 5 book series. I can totally borrow it to you.
Yeah.
It's a good time. It's one of those books that now, going back, she maybe misrepresented some culture a little bit, and that worries me.
Sure.
I remember reading it in middle school and thinking it was a really beautiful, fun novel. But I do need to do a reread now in my adulthood.
Yeah, do it.
Because it's a white author talking about India and Indian traditions.
Gotcha.
And that's not saying that she didn't represent it well, but I know there's also an Italian character, and I know she wrote a lot of the this is mi familia and a little bit too caricature-y. Yeah, exactly. So
sure.
I need to go read it as an adult.
Do you know what year it came out?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I want to say it came out in like mid 2005-ish.
Sure.
Somewhere in the early 2000s, I'm thinking, because I read it in middle school. So that would have fit around that time.
Okay.
For anyone doing the math, I was born in 97. So for anyone who's like, is she older than me or younger than me? Figure it out. But these characters were in one of the books. I think it was one of the first couple. And the two main characters, the love interests, had to fight them. And I remember thinking that they were really unique and in my middle school brain thinking how genius the author was for coming up with this character. Well, she didn't. She channeled a lot of different folklore, and she did that throughout her books, which I thought was really cool. But these characters these creatures are also mentioned in the third Harry Potter book.
What?
Prisoner of Azkaban, not the mermaids. That's book 4. He mentioned it's Remus Lupin brings them up, and then Severus Snape later mentions them when he says what Remus Lupin had covered with the class thus far. and they are kappas or kappas.
Ooh.
Yes. So I don't know if that was something on your radar at all.
Not at all.
Okay, excellent, because there's a fun twist. So that's all I had known about at the time, but they are traditional Japanese folklore. Some of the other names in Japanese, obviously, but translate to water tiger, river boy, and horse puller. They also were found in Chinese and Scandinavian folklore, as well as in the Philippines and German, actually. So there's some German folklore about these as well. Similar creatures, I should say.
So, did you say horse puller?
Horse puller. Yes.
So can I tangent for a second?
Absolutely.
Like, okay, why do horses have such a connection to water in so many cultures?
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I know the horses now. I do not know their cultural significance in a lot of the...
Well, I'm thinking if you just think in like cinema, like Lord of the Rings, when she has the river come through. Oh, you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it. I need to. It's on my reads list.
So good. Well, okay, one character calls like this like stampede of water.
Okay.
And it's just like they look like horse spirits. I'm not sure. I haven't read the book in forever, and so I'm sure there was a name for them or something. But they were horses, like in the shape of water, that like came and like trampled the Nazgul as they're trying to get her. Well, Frodo and the ring, but there's that, and then also I believe Neptune is the Neptune and Poseidon, gods of ocean and horses.
Oh, I didn't realize that, actually.
Yeah.
I just knew I'd seen Poseidon depicted with horses. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I'm like, why?
Interesting. And this is a little more gruesome, but
oh dear,
that is a really cool tie though to other cultures and other folklore.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm going to call them Kappa. I'm sorry if they're Kappa. I think it depends on your accent. The Harry Potter audiobooks definitely say Kappa, but that's Jim Dale.
Sure.
Being British.
And we're both decently Minnesotan. So.
Oh, you betcha. So Kappa are typically described as, because again, there are many different variants, child-sized humanoid creatures. So they're small, four appendages, so 2 arms, 2 legs, head. Their home is in the water, but they can go up on land. They're just not great. They're kind of clumsy on it, kind of slow. And that's how they're described in the Tiger's Curse book. So the characters saw them down in the water. Great, you're not a threat. When they came back up on the water, they moved really slow, but almost zombie-like. They kept kind of coming at them very slowly. It was very creepy. But they are stronger than a grown man. In fact, they are so strong that a lot of the lore around them includes them drowning children, adults, and pulling horses and cattle.
Oh,
yes,
no.
into rivers, lakes, different bodies of water, and drowning them.
Aww.
Yes. The interesting thing about the Kappa, they're described as being kind of greenish or kind of a yellowy blue. They have webbed hands and feet, and they have kind of a little like turtle-like shell on their back. Right. It's kind of interesting, but they also have a depression on their head, kind of like a dish. And the way that you can defend yourself from a Kappa, because they sound terrifying, is that this dish has to always be filled with water on top of their head. And if that water dries up or falls out, they're basically frozen and they can't do anything. So they're actually very polite creatures. They love manners. And so if you bow to a Kappa, they will bow back to you and the water will fall out of the dish of their head.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yes. So if that were to happen and then you go and refill the water in the top of their head from the water where they live, then they actually become your servant. So big 180. And they're not always murderers, it sounds like. So sometimes they're just a little pervy. Like there's stories of them like looking up women's kimonos. So just being like a general nuisance, and then them literally drowning horses and people.
Yeah.
And
they sound like dolphins.
You do have a thing against dolphins.
I hate dolphins.
So I guess that's kind of fair. I like dolphins, but I can see your reasoning. So yeah, there are several different. Oh, sorry. I just realized I missed a fun fact about their description.
Oh, yeah.
It was very pointedly said on Wikipedia that they have 3 anuses, so they could expel 3 times the amount of gas. That's all they said about that. Except when there was a category about defending or defeating them, And that's when they talked about bowing to them. Apparently, they also have very weak arms, so you can rip one of their arms just completely off their body.
Oh, like a weak connection to
Yeah.
their body? Because I was like, but you said they were super strong.
Yes, sorry. They're super strong, but they have really weak joints, I guess, or shoulders. So you can just rip their arms off. And if you do that, you can request knowledge or service from them in return for the arm. You can also sumo wrestle them to defeat them. Seems like a bold choice because they love wrestling people, particularly underwater.
I was going to say.
And then drowning them.
And they're super strong.
Yeah, so bold move. And the other way to defeat them, and this was one sentence I found on one website, and then one kind of traditional style looking Japanese painting. Another way to defeat them is with flatulence. And the painting was someone bending over and farting on one.
Is it like out flatulating them?
I don't know. It was into their face. So maybe.
Because I'm like, you'd think they'd be kind of used to it.
Right. Having 3 anuses and therefore.
Two
extras. More. Right. So I don't know that. I tried to find more and I didn't. I'm sure there's more information out there. If you are an expert in Kappa flatulence, feel free to leave the information in the comments. There is an interesting folklore, though, about a farmer who promised his daughter's hand to a Kappa. Screw that, Dad.
Yeah, for heaven's sakes.
And in return, the Kappa irrigated his farmland. So that's apparently one of the nice things that Kappas can do is they can irrigate your land and create a better harvest. But obviously the daughter did not want to be married to him.
Yeah.
Who blames her? And so she challenged him to submerge several gourds. And gourds float, so like pumpkins and squash. And the Kappa failed and then fled in shame. And then she didn't have to marry him. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit. Kappa also love cucumber. Kind of random. They had several different things that they really enjoyed, but cucumber was the main thing. In fact, cucumber is often made as offerings at different festivals, and some of these festivals are still going on today.
Oh, sure.
In some areas in Asia, and some areas in Europe as well. There's a big debate, though, about whether or not eating cucumber before going to swimming either prevents an attack or guarantees an attack.
Oh, no.
So I don't know if you want to roll those dice, but it's an option. So I did tell you, though, that I had a fun twist about this creature. The twist is that why are they drowning these animals, or animals and people necessarily?
Is it to join their home?
It's actually, supposedly, depending on the folklore, to drink their blood, eat their liver, or... I know, so I'm like, oh my gosh, they're kind of like
drinking the
blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was worried for a second that maybe this was on your to-do list because I had no idea when I started looking at these. Because that was not mentioned it might have been mentioned in the Tiger's Curse book I read in middle school. I'm so sorry if it was. I don't remember that. But there also was a note that sometimes they take the shirikodama. I'm so sorry for my pronunciation. But that is a mythical ball in Japanese lore that contains the soul. And so they supposedly take that. The interesting about this ball is that it is stored in the anus.
No.
Yes.
No. And theirs or ours?
Ours.
Oh,
like they would, I think they would, I don't know how they get it out of your anus. We don't need to go into that.
No.
But yeah, so they're kind of a vampire and merfolk lore child who have a anal fetish. Which I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, but I just did not expect that when I started researching.
Wait, okay, so it's K?
Kappa.
Yes, I just gotta.
Are they in there?
They're in my book.
Oh my goodness.
Drink blood and eat entrails.
Yeah, I believe in Harry Potter, Remus Lupin had one in like a bathtub or something, or he had one in a tub. Or just a tank. He had one in a tank that he was storing. And apparently there's also some stories about one of the Weasley brothers in like the early 90s, like maybe even 80s, teaching a lesson about Kappas to fellow students. That wasn't in the original 7 novels. So they were mentioned in Prisoner of Azkaban, which was wrote by no one or Hagrid. And Tiger's Curse as well. And they're in a lot of popular culture. Wikipedia had a whole list of movies, TV shows, books that they're referenced in. But those are just 2 that when I had started looking at merfolk, it popped up. And I thought, what a great opportunity to dive back into it. So.
That is cool. It does say here that they're named after the river god.
Yes, there was some talk as well that they don't like being treated as not a god. That can be a way to peeve them off, is not treating them like they're a god, which...
You gotta bow to them.
Right, and then they become your servants, interestingly enough. So if you're ever being followed by a terrifying, scaly green monster with a dish on its head, bow to it. I thought that was really interesting.
So silly.
Right? And I do think that happened in the original Tiger's Curse book series that I read. And I don't remember if it was in the first book or not, but I do think that's how they eventually defeated them. So that's my fun twist.
A lot of anuses.
A lot of anuses, yeah. 3 just on the Kappa, the person farting on them, trying to deflect them, and then
the souls
in the anus.
Yeah.
Take care of your anuses, people. Some believe that's where your soul lives.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's what I have.
Nice.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, or
just watch the movie with us and join us next week to see what Erin thinks about it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to give my review.
So what are they doing to their tails?
They are, is it watch your tails and cover your necks?
That's the one.
Perfect. Have a good night, everybody.
Obscurantism and obfuscation.
Orally observed, gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Gentle listener.
Obviated objects of oblivion.
Obambulating about.
Offered unto you.
Offered unto you.
Offered unto you.
In the Tapestry Radio Network.
TapestryRadio.org.
From our fancy to yours.